Hello everybody, good morning, and welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, and Disembodied Hands. We're back to percentages, 99.999% Quindy, let's face it. And then there's that Justin and John people, those people, yes. Anyway, hi. Hi everybody, hi. I like my percentages, plus they're accurate, totally accurate. And carefully analyzed data, right Quindy? Carefully analyzed. Hello, everyone. We have a wizard. A pink wizard. Well, actually, she's orchidy. She's orchid colored is what she is. Remember, we were using all these colors? Yeah, I really like this color scheme. It's coming along. And it's an interesting color scheme because it kind of straddles the line. It's not a clear primary or secondary color scheme. And what I mean by that is that you might think, looking at it, and this is maybe true at this point, this may actually be a red and blue color scheme, or it might be a purple and gold color scheme. It's really weird. And it would really depend, because I've got several colors straddling the line here. I mean, we did start with orchids, so we started with a purple. But we brought that up by adding fire red. So then our orchid shifted far more into a red-pink, right? And away from the purple. We still have the orchid in the shadows. But then we went and we put the ultramarine shadow into the background. And that is a blue, but it's a very purple blue. So how we move forward from this point will really determine if this model is kind of a red-blue color scheme or a purple-gold color scheme. Red-blue-gold, actually. So it's either a primary color scheme or it's a complementary color scheme. But right now, it's sitting there on the line. It can go either way. And the thing that will bring it one way or the other, it is going to depend on like how we highlight and treat this blue, in my opinion. So... but yeah, so I'm glad you guys like this figure. I think she's got an unusual color scheme and I like it a lot. I think she's turning out really well. I'm still thinking about making her kind of a celestial wizard. I'm gonna maybe break up her cloak a bit. I've been thinking about how to break up her cloak in a nice way that will help with whatever freehand or designs we want to put on her. So that is what I've been thinking on in the past. I don't think I want to do it in the gold. We just did NMM gold yesterday. I think I want to instead work with this ultramarine shadow and probably bring it onto the pants, the leggings, since I decided even though it's right up against there, it's going to be this blue back on the cloak. You can see how much in shadow it is. It's going to be very dark once I shade it down. So I'm going to bring the knee up there. You could paint her with bare legs if you wanted to. We kind of decided not to. I decided to give her leggings instead. I don't know. She's got her ears over her shoulders and her posture is good. So I feel like her wide stance is okay for me. She may be tilted a little bit, but I don't know. It doesn't bother me. She seems pretty solid for me. But maybe that's just me. Alrighty, so, let's mix up some of this. And then I'm going to do a little bit of blocking in and we're going to change the back of this, which is still orchid purple, by the way. Hello, Returnip. Yeah, she's just racing, that's all. I'm going to get some of this. So this beautiful blue color we know from the dragon, right? We were base coating our dragon in it, but as you can see, you can also put it with this pink, and it looks even purplier when it's here. So what I want to do, I think, is block in part of this with this blue. I want to throw a little bit of water into it, so I'm going to do a 4-to-1 and mix it up. And what I want to do is divide up this, since it's all purple and I don't want it to be all purple, and since I've committed to having that beautiful blue as a main player in the color scheme. I'm going to mix up my blue and I'm going to apply it over the purple to break it up. I could block this in first with walnut and do underpainting. I probably do want to do a little bit of underpainting because originally the blue was applied over this gray. And that's what's giving it its beautiful tone right now. If you applied the blue right over the purple, it's probably going to go darker and it's not going to be as evident. So yeah, let's do that. Let's do a little underpainting. Whenever you want your base coat colors to come really clean over the underlying surface, if you've already put down a color, but you want to maybe do a different color, like here I'm going to be doing kind of V-shaped sections back here with the blue. Whenever you're doing that and putting one color over another, if you want that second color to be really bright, or you really want to get the vibrancy of that color, put down white first. And we don't need much. I think I'm going to just do a 2-to-1. You just want a little bit of white just so it's not going over that darker. That purple's kind of a mid dark color, so I don't want it to be all over that. Let's see, what have I got here? Gotta use a Reaper brush. If the Reaper brush is going to play nice. You gonna play nice, Reaper brush? I can't remember if this was kind of just a mixing brush or a random brush that I grabbed. I think it'll work. All right, so there, mixed up 2-to-1. Reaper pure white does still cover pretty well at 2-to-1. Yeah, today is a neutral day for me. I'm in the neutral zone. I made sure to get to sleep early last night. And I've been playing with my wake up time. I was trying to make myself get up earlier, and what I found was that it just made me hit snooze. So I went back to my normal wake up time and had no problem getting up with my alarm this morning. So I think it's all in fine tuning your existence. It's all life hacks these days for me. How I can, what time I have to go to bed and what time I have to get up and what routine I need to feel awesome. I'm kind of micro-analyzing it these days. So since this is the shape of the cloak, I decided to kind of do triangular spaces. And I'm going to block these in and I'm going to kind of assess. And I want to go a little more triangular down here. I want to leave kind of equal areas on both sides, but I want 2 triangles here, so I may actually bring this one out a little bit more. I don't want them to be perfectly in line because that's boring, visually boring. Doesn't look good. So I want to narrow to the top here and then bring it down. Then I'll put the blue over it. I'll probably put a gold border in between them. There we are. I'm not worried about highlights and shadows right now. I'm just getting everything kind of blocked in. And I'm kind of looking at it and going, all right, all right. Kind of like that. Kind of want to curve this a little bit in line with the cloth. Kind of want to curve this one a little bit as well. Make it look a little bit more fluid. When you've got cloth that's swirling and pulling and stretching, try not to do a straight line. I may need to get my orchid purple in and touch that side up a little bit, or bring out a little bit more white so that it's not a straight line. That's a little better. So we want it to just be a little bit suggested that it's stretching at the bottom just like the cloth is stretching. There. No, no stress eating. Resist, Cardicco. That's my poison too, stress eating. I would still be like 15 pounds lighter if I hadn't had a bunch of stress hit me. But I'm very bad at mitigating it. I did okay yesterday though. All right, so now let's put this beautiful blue down. And I will be probably bringing up this this purple because you can see how the orchid purple and the blue don't like each other as much. See? This is very interesting because on the front, the pink loves that, right? And the orchid doesn't like it as much. And that's two different reasons. One, the orchid is closer as far as light and dark goes to this blue. Remember, this is a purpley blue, so it actually is quite close as well on the color wheel. So there's two reasons for you. The other thing is that, actually, so 3 reasons. Third reason is the purple is more muted than the blue. This is a very vibrant, very saturated blue, and we haven't done anything to it to block it, knock it down yet. So yeah, we can do a thin border, but it's still not going to help the fact that the colors are clashing, Crowley. The reason I'm not changing it is because I know I'm already going to be making this purple lighter. I'm going to make it match the front. So, but I wanted to show you guys this because this is like an example again of how colors can clash. So, okay, so again, purple and bluish purple or purple blue, very close to each other on the color wheel. Second, one is muted and one is very vibrant. And third is they're the same shade. Like if you squint your eyes, they blend together. So there is no contrast. Yes, you could put, I'm planning to do a thin gold line between them, and that would help a little bit because the gold would be complementary to the purple, but they would still clash. They would absolutely still clash because they would just clash to a slightly lesser extent. So the reason, again, that I'm still doing this, even though I know these are clashing colors, is that I know I'm going to change that purple just like I did on the front of the model. And once I change that purple and highlight it accordingly, it's going to shift in color. You can see, actually, how it shifted in color between the cape and this leg. It's the same color back here in the shadow, see? Same color. But then once I highlighted and brought that red in and then lightened it, then it started really, really, really loving that blue. So, that's good, Rainbow. And thank you. Yeah, I've been painting for a long time, although most of my painting time was spent not really being very good. It was when actually after I started playing miniatures games and looking at other people's paint jobs that were very good, and that, but like I realized how good you could make the models look, and that got me excited and interested to try to improve my own work. So yeah, keep improving. Quality paints and brushes are a good step, and then it's just technique from there. Just learning the various techniques. After you know the techniques, you'll learn how to break the rules with them. But learn the techniques and the concepts first. It really is exactly like, it is exactly like the whole, learn the rules so you can break them. Until you know why the rule works, breaking it successfully is very difficult. Colors are not weird. Why do you say colors are weird, Shadow Raven? They have rules. Colors follow rules. And once you learn the rules, then you're good. Which is why I keep, like, haranguing you guys about, colors close together on the color wheel, fight. Colors that are muted versus colors that are bright, fight. In fact, I'm going to take a picture of this right now before I forget, and because I'm about to, paint a lot more on it. But I'm going to take a picture of this one for my color theory class that I'm teaching at the end of the month at KublaCon, because this is an excellent example of exactly how colors can clash, and then how you can change them so that they don't clash. There. Hopefully that is a decent picture. Sometimes it's like, hey, I wish I had a picture of that thing, and that would be great, and stuff. Yeah. And there we are. Just making sure that I've got it. Done. Great. But yeah. Perfect. Now let's get back to making this actually not suck. All right, so we've got that. So let's put that gold, or let's at least put a dark border between them. The rule set doesn't change, Shadow Raven. The rule set never changes. But the change of a color, shifting a color, can cause things to become better in line with that rule set. Because you're still not going to change any of the things I just set out. You're not going to change the fact that one is muted and one is bright, But if one suddenly becomes more muted or the other becomes more bright, or both, then that neutralizes that problem. So you haven't changed the rules, you've just changed the colors so that they can work better within the rules. So it's not the rules, it's just how you interact with them. And I'm trying to teach you troubleshooting so that when you look at a model and you're like, wow, that's kind of ugly. Like, why is that not working? You can go, okay, is one bright and one muted? Or is one light and dark, or are they the same shade? Are they too close on the color wheel? Those are the questions you should ask yourself when you have a color problem. And then the next question is, can I, with highlights and shadows or glazing, alter these just a little so that they work together? I'm going to do a 2-to-1 on my walnut. I am using walnut for this. I will not lie, that salt and vinegar waffle mac and cheese sandwiches actually sounds gross to me. I'm sorry. More for you guys, I guess. Part of it is my carb version, and part of it is just that it honestly just doesn't sound very good to me. I can get if you have potato waffles with salt and vinegar. That sounds good, but the rest of it doesn't sound good. Oh, I have heard of vinegar flavored salt. Like, it's just efficient. It's just like, obviously, the Scottish people are more efficient. That they've figured out how to just put vinegar into the salt, right? We're just not very, very efficient over here. Although, to be fair, they pretty much have vinegar flavored salt at Buffalo Wild Wings because their salt and vinegar flavored wings are tossed in it. They have a crumbly topping that is vinegar flavored salt. You can ask for it on the French fries and it's killer. It's one of my favorite flavors of wings, is salt and vinegar. All right, so put a dark border here. And in order for it to really impact, you want to make it, not super thin. You actually want to give it some room. Also, if you're planning to paint it gold in the future, make it wide enough that you can actually, make it look gold. If you have this really skinny line, it's going to be very hard to get that gold, NMM gold color to show up. Especially if you decide you want to do silver instead, that's really subtle and needs a little more room. I used to go to, when I was on keto, I went to Buffalo Wild Wings a lot. That was my keto, one of my keto restaurants because if you order the right sauce with your wings, they're pretty naturally keto. Get a big thing of blue cheese or ranch to your taste and go for it. But yeah, I haven't been for a while now just because there aren't a lot of good wing places out here. That's the one thing. The one thing I think I've noticed here in the South Bay is that we have a crap ton of amazing Indian and Thai restaurants and general just Indonesian and like Chinese and Japanese all over, like tons of incredible Asian restaurants, but trying to find a really, really good wing place is a challenge. It's kind of funny. Like somebody ought to just open up a boutique buffalo, wings place and make a killing. Really? Oh, I love wings. On the bone wings. I don't even drink beer anymore. I can't. Well, I can, but I'll pay for it. So I really don't. So here, while I'm putting this little border in, is a good time for me to adjust the width of things by either covering up more blue or covering up more purple. Kind of liking how this is going right now. I need one more border over here. Yeah, sadly. Yeah, I don't do boneless either. Bone-in wings all the way. Plus, because low carb, right? The minute you add breading to it, it pretty much is poison for me with being gluten-free and low carb. That's why I actually hate visiting the Midwest. Like, we go to Adepticon every year, and it's the same thing, although at least this year I noticed they did have some salad options that were not terrible. But man, the first year I went, it was punishing. Everything is breaded and fried. And I used to love that stuff, but I don't anymore. There we go. All right, so we've got a nice, pretty decent... I'm not seeing it much because it's on the side of this fold, so I may have to widen it just a little over there. Yeah, everybody but me has like tasty wing options. It's probably good because, I do love them and they are very high calorie, like extraordinarily. Don't look up the calories. That's all I can say for you. If you're calorie conscious and you love wings, don't look up the calories in your wings. It's fraught with peril. When you realize how much you eat when you go to one of those places, it was very much a downer. Like I have to just deprogram my brain if I'm going to go out for wings and just say, I don't care about the calories, just for tonight, don't care. Because, oh my gosh. All right. Gotta make sure she's stuck down. She was trying to come up on me there. Since I've got the walnut out, I'm doing just a tiny bit of lining on back here. Because why not? Got the color. Might as well do it. And of course, if I want to blorf up onto the part I haven't painted yet, ideally. So be a little careful that way. Not that it's a big deal if you blorf onto your other area. We're really just base coated back here. And we've got a little bit of a sleeve here around the arm, and I didn't line this either. There. That's fraught with peril because we do have highlights on both sides. So this is a very careful lining project. Use a good brush and a light touch. I do like doing fish tacos with cod. I like doing it myself because then I can control the ingredients. So I do make a pretty killer fish taco with lime cilantro sauce. It's really the only fried food that I make. I've been trying to do them in the air fryer, or at least last summer I was experimenting with it, but haven't quite gotten it to the point where I get it to quite where I like it. All right, gonna line around the hand here just to block in the staff, which will probably be black. Did it on the other side, but hadn't done it on this side. Back over here, aligning underneath this, and here, and here. All right, I think we are good to start highlighting our back to look like our front. Excellent. Luckily, I have my ratios. Da-da-da! The formula card is here. I want one more coat of that ultramarine on there, though. I'm sorry, D. Clearman. Yeah, I know. I'm back on the Noom today as well. Technically I was back on it yesterday. Back on the trying to be a better Anne, to eat better. The whole wedding planning thing was stressing me out, and I spent a period of time eating very badly indeed, thanks to my stress eating habit. And I was just letting myself go. So now I'm attempting to tame the stress eating habit. It's always been my bane. Always. Like, I eat really healthy and I exercise every day. Sometimes take 2 walks a day, but yeah, it's the stress eating that gets me. Still wrestling with it. Oh yes, very dangerous to live with a chef, that's for sure. Yeah, I love pork rinds. Pork rinds save me. Hello, Anura. We're doing our wizard today. All right, see you later, Twisted Oma. Good luck. Good luck to your hubby. Yeah, the food that gives negative calories. That's why it's great to dip in blue cheese. Yeah, we have a good barbecue place. That's the irony. We have a Texas barbecue place that's actually pretty good here, but we don't have a good wing place. It's just like, it blows my mind. I don't know. What's up, California? I'm sure in other places in California maybe there are wings, but perhaps we just try to be too healthy, quote unquote, too healthy here. But anyway, so what we're doing today, for those who have come in since the everything, yeah, and the pork rinds are getting really, like, there's some really good brands out there now, Big Isler. Tasty pork rinds. I still buy them. I'm not on keto. I'm just low carb, but I still like them. Yeah, this side is more the finished product. Then I had blocked in the purple on this side and the blue, and I was showing people earlier how this is a good color theory lesson. Because on the front, the ultramarine shadow works really, really well with the purple as we've highlighted it up. But then when we look on the back, it's actually clashing. And there are 3 reasons for this that I talked about earlier. I'm going to recap them real quick for those who came in later in the stream. The reason these colors do not look very good together right now, even though they look fantastic together on the front, is threefold. One is that the purple and the blue are roughly the same shade. So when I talk about shade, it's light and dark. So they're both very dark color, or like a medium dark color, and the blue is just only a little bit darker than the purple. So it's really, they're too close as far as shade. The second thing is they're too close as far as color. This is a purpley blue, and this is a reddish purple. So they're very close on the color wheel. So they're intrinsically going to want to fight a little bit because they're too close. And the last thing is this purple is muted, and the blue is very vibrant, very saturated color. So those 2 things also make them want to fight. So the way you get around that on the front is that we have brought in a highlight color that's further away from the blue. So we've shifted our orchid toward red, so that pushes it farther away on the color wheel. We've also used a color that's a little more saturated to do so. Like, you can see that this is more dull and this is getting a little more bright. So a little bit of saturation shift. And then we're also making it much lighter through highlighting. So those three things are why suddenly this pink looks fantastic with that ultramarine, but it does not look great back here. So it's like May, is it May 24th or 23rd, Quindy? I can't remember. We had a half show in there somewhere, but we're good to go for giving away gift certificates, online gift codes for our 500th episode. So I'm going to mix up my, I'm going to dig out my colors first. We actually used a skin tone for this too. Where are you, Orchid Purple? That's Wild Violet. That's not what I need. There you go, Orchid Purple, which is a very pretty color. Looks darker in the bottle than it is on the model. Part of that was putting it over the light gray. Quindy is double checking our dates. She will be back in a moment. Do, 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 do. All right, let us get our highlight mixed up. So these are the three colors we used to mix the highlight. So the Orchid Purple is actually the color that is down here. Even though it looks dark, I didn't put a double layer of it down there. I wanted it just straight up. Then we've got the Fire Red, and we've got the Pale Flesh. Now, using skin tones to highlight reds and purples is a very long-standing, time-honored tradition. And what it does is it makes your pink not be quite so pink. It makes it a little more natural. It's so that it's not just like, doesn't immediately just teleport you straight to a screaming pink. I can get away with actually it being still kind of purple here. I never do that to find the color, but you can see my drop of paint. You can see a drop of paint there. Actually, what I do this for is if I only need a tiny little bit of paint for it to touch up, I'll just put a drop up here and I'll work with that. So I don't make my palette dirty. So I don't use the cap for color matching or color spotting. $4.91, 500 episode to be on the 23rd. All right, people. Let's see here. That'll be Monday. We'll have a super special Monday edition. Monday the 23rd. Mark your calendars. I think I'm going to do a second row. So let's see here. Let's get this down here. There. Since my blues are going to work down here, I usually do, I like to line up my colors as far as highlights, midtones, and shadows. I like to line them up on the palette. So let me punch a hole in my Orchid Purple here so it functions. There we go. Now I need 3 drops of Orchid. There we go. All right. So yes, mark it. Monday the 23rd. We will be giving away online gift codes for Reaper products. Anything you want for watching my show, and I'll see what I can do. As far as maybe we'll paint the dragon. Maybe we'll do a dragon painting episode on the 23rd. What do you think, Quindy? Is dragon special enough? Maybe we'll work on the wings more. What do you guys think? Dragon? And then, okay, so 1 drop of that and 1 drop of Pale Flesh. So this is the skin tone I'm using. And the reason I'm using this particular skin tone is, as you can see, it's very pinkish. It's light and it's pink. Yeah, everybody says yay for dragon. All right, good. It's light and it's pink, and it doesn't have any black in it. It's very, it's a pretty bright skin tone, all things considered. I mean, it's very light, but it's not ashy at all. It's not brownish at all. It's obviously just a very pale, like pink, orangey pink. And that is kind of the color you want if you're using it to highlight purples and reds. Two. All right, and then we use this color to continue to build. So we don't actually add more orchid, and we don't actually like build a brand new color. We take, you know, a big brush full of this, and, you know, or we swap. I do have a swapping thing here where I would actually invert the formula. So either way, usually I'm working off of a base color, and then I'm mixing. You can see that orchid is a very transparent color. This is on purpose. I made it that way on purpose because I really just loved the color, and I wanted you to be able to use it for washes and stuff like that. But you can see how it turned lighter on the model because of how I didn't put that much water in it, but it's definitely broken down in opacity a lot. As opposed to this one, our highlight color, which has the red in it, and the pale flesh has a lot of white. So you can see how that's far like more opaque here with even more water in it. Whereas this one, very, very see-through. Now, as I compare, and this is why it's nice to have a swatch, what I'm seeing is I feel like I want just a little bit more red. I'm seeing this being more washed out. My red didn't quite, I might have put a little bit more red in the last one. So I'm going to actually add another drop of red so that I can match what I had before. Maybe my drop of, there we go, that's looking a little better. Maybe my drop of pale flesh was just really heavy. So I'm going to actually swatch this. If you have problems, and this is why I do a swatch after I do all this, if I'm doing a complicated color, and these each have three different paints in them, so they're fairly complicated. But after I do this sort of color, the reason I swatch it is so that I can have this comparison to see if it comes up the way I want it. And I think this is close. It looked like it was more pink at first, but as I watch it dry, it darkens. So I can put just a little tiny bit off to the side here and see. That's my color. All right, we're good. Just needed, it got a little bit too washed out, so needed a little more red in it, but now I'm happy with it. This is why I use these little artist trading cards. They're watercolor paper that are just cut into a nice, convenient little size. It's the easiest thing in the world after a stream for me to just dab down these and note my formulas if I'm going to be repeating them. If I hadn't, I would be trying to reconstruct this from memory, and that would just be doom. All right. So now, kind of looking at what I did here, let's start bringing in the red. I have, this is a very, very beat up brush that I am using. So I'm going to kind of put it on. Oh, I've got a little hair in there. Now I don't. I'm going to put on layers and again check toward what I did on the front of the model. Something in me says that I could still use a little bit more red in this formulation. Like, I'm not quite getting the vibrancy that I wanted. The red is key for getting that vibrancy. And maybe I just got, because I just punched a hole in my orchid purple, it is possible that I got a lot more orchid than I did when I first mixed up this color. And because I am playing very carefully with the rules on this one, I need to make sure that I'm doing the thing I need to be doing to make the colors work together. When you are painting folds, if you want your colors to blend easier, never paint a vertical fold with an up and down stroke. Always go across the surface. That way, if and when you leave brush strokes, the brush strokes will be perpendicular to the surface and the eye will not pick them out as readily. Whereas if you are painting folds with big long stripes and the folds themselves look like big long stripes, you will see your brush strokes absolutely, and so will everyone else. So I've got two things going for me here. One is that my colors are actually fairly close together, and the other is that I'm using that crossways brush stroke. I think the stats would be under hot contention. When you get up to the top level mini painters, everybody's really good. They're just good in different ways. But yeah, artist trading cards are they were originally meant for artists to just do little sketches on for their fans or for each other. They're just really good little color keepers as far as I'm concerned. I keep them around. I also do when I do want to do it like a demo picture, if I want to do a sketch to illustrate something in a coaching or in my Patreon, I use them as well. Because sometimes I just want to paint an example and I don't want to have to paint a whole figure. I just want to show it. Oh, wow. Clever Crow is definitely black. Like if there's magic colors associated, Rhonda I think is green or white. Roman's blue. And actually Clever Crow might be red. Michael likes chaos. If I'm using traditional magic card colors. That's cute, Inara. Yeah, I like the artist trading cards. They're pretty cool. But you're right, Clever Crow is definitely a trap card. There we go. So again, just a little bit. You can see that the color is shifting, but just a little. That said, it already is looking a little better against my blue. You all are liking this artist trading card thing a little bit too much. We should all have like our card, but then we all have our weaknesses. Like you can play like a migraine headache card against Matt DiPietro or Lovejoy, and you can play, like play like all this other stuff. Play like the tasty food card against Anne, or the cute puppy card against Anne, which totally would make me not attack. There we go. So that's already looking up a bit. I think I also want, do I want to shade this ultramarine shadow? I think I'm going to mix, another thing I could do to mitigate is to darken down parts of my ultramarine shadow with a more neutral highlight. So let's do an ultramarine mix with a little bit of walnut in it. They should neutralize each other beautifully, actually. They'll probably make this gorgeous, like dark bluey indigo color. A lot like black indigo. So this is the color that those two colors make together. And yeah, it is very similar to black indigo. So this is a mixture of ultramarine shadow and walnut brown. It's very pretty. Very, very pretty. And we're going to shade with that. No migraine cards ever. They're just pieces of cardboard, Grey Wolf. His scoring card would be convention, but the counter would be oppressive work schedule. Yep. 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 Depends on who you are as far as how the work schedule is oppressive. With me, it's much Patreon and the YouTubes now. All right, so I'm going to use this shading color to essentially create a little bit of shadow in my interim spaces. And once again, I'm going to be doing a sideways brush stroke just to set it up. And then a little bit of feathering on the edges. But this is so dark and it's going up against such a dark color, you don't really even require a lot of blending on this. It'll just naturally kind of blend together because both colors are so very dark. But what I'm doing here is I'm muting my ultramarine just a little bit and just in those places. And that's also going to make it work together better, right? Because that was one of the problems, was that our ultramarine shadow was a really saturated, really bright color. And our orchid purple was not. So by changing the shadows, I'm not changing the core color, but I am essentially covering up part of the space that this blue takes up with a more muted color. So in that way, I am diminishing the vibrancy just a little because I'm mitigating parts of it, parts of the area that the blue takes up. Oh yeah, Rainbow. I have, what makes me happy though is busts and big models. I just prepped a new bust that I'm going to paint with my brand new oil paints, and I'm super excited. I just have to make myself finish a commission first, because that's like getting paid. Getting paid is important. Actually, since I do this for a living, it's very important. So yeah. So once I finish my commission, then I can start on my new bust. Actually, it's a bust I've had for a little while, but I always thought I would paint it in oils. And so now that I have oil paint, I'm going to try it. And probably fail utterly, but it will. I can at least document my fails and my successes for my Patreon. Here on the stream, I use all acrylics, of course, and I actually designed this paint line. I'm the person who created Reaper Master Series paint. So I'm very, very knowledgeable with acrylics, especially this line. But I haven't done oils since college. I did a lot of oils when I was in high school and college. It was actually my favorite medium for a long time there. Thank you for my socials there, Quindy. Yeah, I do have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/paintingbig, as you can see in the socials. I also have a YouTube channel that I've been putting more content on lately. I've been doing a Fundamentals of Miniature Painting series on there, and that's free content. But the Patreon is unfree, but it is also pretty reasonably priced, considering you get a ton of stuff. We've been doing this for over 3 years, and there's a lot of material and content. So I see how that, one, it does give me shadows here. I do need a little bit more here. How I'm introducing my shadows. Oh, David got his Overwatch 2 beta key last night, guys. So now we're playing Overwatch 2 together. Yay, beta keys. Oh, and the other exciting thing we got yesterday, 2 days ago, we got our Bard Sung. We got our copy of Bard Sung and Fables. So now we are both working on painting our character miniatures. Each one of us chose one. So we're looking forward to starting Bard Sung, having a board game to play together. Yeah. Oh no, failures are failures. They're just, you turn them into successes. It's just, failure is not a loaded word for me. I have made failure my Voldemort. I am not afraid of the word failure. Failure simply begets success. It makes sense not to use loaded words and to change your thinking. Like, that can be, you can do it one of two ways when you're changing your mindset. You can change the word entirely and not use certain words that you know are loaded for you. Or you can make failure, you're Voldemort, and just get used to saying it, because there's nothing to fear about it. I don't know. Failure, I feel like, gets too negative of a connotation in our society, and so I have made friends with it. I actually kind of enjoy failing for you guys, because it shows you, one, that I do, and so does every artist that's experienced out there. I don't care who you are in the world, you still screw up from time to time on your paint jobs. You know, you still do stuff, and then you're like, "Doe, why did I do that? I should know better." And I think it's helpful to everybody who is learning to know that we do, right? And that you can fix it. I don't think we got the Dragonfolk Monk. I think we liked the little halfling mage, and I'm doing the turtle druid. David started with the little dwarf warrior fighter, the little female one from the main set, and we both decided to just start with characters from the main set. So, and I'm doing the turtle. Yeah. It's up to you. I mean, if failure is a really loaded word for you, definitely mitigate it. Definitely call it, just like do what, it's all just a happy accident. Like do a Bob Ross in that case if failure is a really loaded word for you. Absolutely. For me, failure is not a loaded word, so I don't mind using it. I am able to look forward to my failures because I learn from them. I'm looking forward to having failures and learning from them. All right, so I've got a nice shadow here now, and that's notice how much that's darkened that color down. But it's also made everything work a little better together. So now we'll continue to add contrast. Yeah, I think I read that. Didn't they do a documentary on Bob Ross not long ago? And I thought I'd heard that as well. Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. It's all how you think of the word Shadow Raven. It's too fair. Absolutely fair. Use the word that works for you. When it comes down to it, whatever motivates you. If a word really kills your motivation, then avoid it and substitute a different word. Alrighty, let's mix up a nice additional highlight color. This time we're going to do 112, so we're going to do 1 drop of Orchid Purple. I think what happened is that since now be aware that this can happen, guys. When you're using your drops formulas, if you have to use the Pokey tool and you haven't prior, you will open up that aperture a little bit more than it is naturally. The drops that come out will start to be a little bigger. That's what happened to me here, is I had to adjust my formulas because I hadn't previously had to puncture my Orchid Purple, and then I did. And so the drops of it that came out were bigger. And so I had to add more red to make sure I got an equal amount. Because when I put a drop of red next to a drop of my purple, it is a little bit smaller. So I'm adjusting. So be aware that can happen. Because the Pokey tool is wider than the natural aperture of the bottle. Now I need 2 of these. All right. So now we've got a lot more pale flesh in this new color mix than we have. I just dropped something on my... Oh, okay. That wasn't a catastrophic thing. So we've got more pale flesh, and we've got 1-to-1 Orchid and Fire Red. So let us do this. And the reason I'm using Fire Red for this is it does have a bit of magenta. It's a colder red. So it goes well with purples. Yeah, figure out what kills your motivation and either, use a different word or slide your mindset, right? Because mindset is everything in life. How you think about stuff is the greatest life hack. All right, so that's a lovely, lovely pink. I'm going to put a little bit of that by my previous sample of it, but I think that's pretty much a match. Yeah. And then from here, we just go up by adding more pale flesh. But you can see the triad that we have there with the Orchid Purple. The Orchid Purple doesn't really have a natural triad since it came out in kind of a variety pack triad itself. But now you can see that we've created one that's very nice. So You can build your own triads. Have fun with your meeting, Nomadzik. Competition fuels my motivation to a point. It's a weird thing. And that's why I empathize with all you guys who like get 90% of the way through a model and then lose motivation. I think it's very common with artists and writers to do that. I experience it myself. And so like I'll get motivated for a competition and I'll start a project and then I'll get really close to done and I'll just kind of like lose oomph. And I have to realize that that's just probably, for me, a fear factor of failing, like doing good work and not placing because of competition, right? So there's definitely a judgment in there. So that I just have to like realize that and push through. But competition motivates me only up to a point. And then I have to finish the model just because I like the model. It's very interesting. It's like I love the idea of competing until I actually am coming down to it, and then I don't anymore. It's funny. The mind is a weird thing. Dino, quite a long time. I really beat this one up. So it's a sad little brush right now, though it's still working. So as long as it holds a point, I use it. When I was painting, here, let me show you the difference between a fresh one of these and my current one. Do I have a fresh? Yeah, I have a fresh one. Okay, so I use the Da Vinci Maestro. It's a Kolinsky sable, which means it's one of the top 2 grades of red sable. And I usually go through, when I was painting full time, where I was over 40 hours a week, I would go through one of these in about 6 months. And that was painting pretty much 7 days a week when I was commission painting. So you can kind of see the difference. You can see that the one on the left is much more full-bodied. It comes to, it has a lot more hairs left. It's wider. So the one on the left is new. And then this one I've been beating up for months. So now I no longer, I'm doing a lot of writing since I do Patreon now. It's not like just full-time commission painting. So I'd say that I don't paint nearly that much. I probably paint 20 to 30 hours a week now. And my brushes last easily a year. If you paint less than that, then your brushes will last for years if you take good care of them. And I really do brutalize my brushes. Like, I'm not good to my brushes. Oh, I'm terrible. It lasts a long time because it's a Kolinsky sable. This is why you buy expensive brushes. So, like, an expensive Kolinsky, if you don't leave it sitting in the paint water, which you never should do to your brushes, if you take, like, just decent care of it, will last easily that long. And that's why they're a $15 to $20 brush, is they last so much longer and they keep a perfect tip right down to their death. Like this brush has been abused immensely and it's still, you can see, it still keeps a perfect tip. My brush care routine is non-existent. I actually get away with what I do, I think, Dino, because I rinse my brush and reload it so often. So essentially when I load my brushes, I'm only getting just a little bit of paint on them. Just like if you can, I hate the white. There we go. You can see it. I only load up about a third of the brush and then I unload it because I want control. So essentially the paint isn't really getting up toward the ferrule here, which tends to ruin brushes. And then I'll paint with this for, while I have it, and maybe I'll reload my brush one more time. It really depends on how thick the paint is and how the brush stroke is working, and if I feel like, I'm still able to work the paint like I like to. But the minute that the paint starts getting a little sticky or not coming off my brush very well, then I stop and rinse, even if I've only put one brush full of paint onto the mini. And that essentially means that the main cause of brushes dying being paint building up in the ferrule. And you can see that this one has had some buildup because I've abused it so much. That just doesn't happen. The other thing I can tell you is, oh yeah, you can get sables. The other thing that I'll tell you is don't use your good brushes to mix your paint if you're on the palette. Don't like, because if you sit here, if you've got a well palette, you're just going to get that paint all up in that ferrule. And it's going to cause your brush to deteriorate faster. Yeah, I mean you get what you pay for with sable brushes. Like it's the handcrafting and it's the way that the bristles are laid together. I mean they're more expensive for an actual reason, unlike some art products. Um, but yeah, we were using a synthetic. I've been using a synthetic here and there. One of the just Master's Touch from Hobby Lobby synthetics, which is actually holding up pretty well, but it still doesn't reach the same really fine tip. And it doesn't unload the paint quite as well, and it is starting to fuzz at the tip now. It's about 5 hours in at this point. So I've been using it here and there. I've been trying to keep track of how much time I how much time it has on it so that I can see how fast it decays. But this is a pretty decent, so far this is a pretty decent brush. This is an 18-aught, I think, round script, or no, it's a script, whatever that is, script or whatever. Series 2050. But yeah, so we were playing around with synthetics. And I think that for anything up to the very, very fine stuff, I'd be fine with it. But the paint honestly does come off of my sable a little better than it does off the synthetic. That's what natural hair, that's part of why its advantage is. I'm not sure. I mean, you'd think that maybe close countries to Russia might also have those sables living in them, but I don't know. No idea. All right, so let's get some more highlights here. I think this pink is going to be a little bit too strong. It's got a lot of white in it because it's got a lot of pale flesh in it. Don't be fooled, like, just because when a color has a lot of white in it, you have to thin it more. If you're not adding, you're like, oh, I'm not adding pure white, I'm adding pale flesh. Come on now, this color has a lot of white in it. You can tell because of how light it is. So when you're adding this, you're adding white, even if you're not adding pure white. And that means you usually have to thin more to get a gradient. So the paint here is going to be pretty thick. You're going to see my brush strokes pretty well there. You can see those are not blending at all. I can go back and grab my previous highlight and just kind of feather that a little bit or run over it so that I can do it again. So that means I need to thin more of this color. Yeah, I mean, they are a higher price point brush, so I think that they aren't selling out right away. But if there gets to be a idea of scarcity, then I'm sure that they'll start flying off the shelves. I just bought a bunch of brushes, so I'm feeling pretty good. Also, heads up, like if you want a decent Klinsky, and I don't know what their prices normally are, but I picked up the Game MV ones. They have a set. I picked those up on sale, like they had a super sale at Adepticon, and I've been using the largest one, and I like it quite a bit. It's a decent quality, and I'm not sure what their pricing is, but if it's a little bit better, you could try them. A little bit of highlight there. Yeah. Yep, flying off the shelves and accompanying price increases. Yep. So I have a lot of backups right now. So I mean, it seems like over the years I've just gotten used to, like, every once in a while there being a bit of a scarcity issue with good sables, just because seasonality or imports or whatever. So I've just gotten in the habit of, when I see a Klinsky sable from a brand or in a size and a shape that looks like it would work for me, I just pick it up. So you can still see that I'm getting a border here, right? So it still needs even more thinning, technically, to get a good blend. Now, we're seeing this, but we are also very close to it. Obviously, you guys are seeing this right now under a lot of magnification. In person, I can't really see the line that much. Like, just looking at it, even with my reading glasses, I have to look closely. But there we go. So I just took the mid-tone color, and I came back, and I just fudged to that edge a little bit. And it's a little bit better. But I'm going to add more water to my thing. My favorite brand of brushes, I love two of them very muchly. Those would be Raphael and Da Vinci. Raphael, my giant Kolinsky sable. It's monstrous. Currently it's fluffy, but it doesn't matter what it looks like when it dries. It only matters what it looks like when you actually like shape it up with some water. So that's my giant. And there's more. There's a tiers. Tiny brush and big brush. There we go. Tiny brush and big brush. Da Vinci Maestro. Maestro is the Kolinsky line. And then Raphael has a 8404 or 8408. 8404 is the fatter brush. 8408 is the skinnier brush. Other brands that are good are, I've been having a decent, I don't like Escoda quite as much. I feel like their brushes just don't hold quite as good of a point. But I'm having some decent luck with this short fat one that I got a little while ago. So this is an Escoda. And then there's Isabey, and there's Winsor & Newton Series 7, and there's a lot of really good companies out there. No, I don't actually. Ilorcolon. I don't, I always have, like, there's always a point where I look at a model and I'm like, you know, like, am I happy with it? And it's done. Like, let me see here. Let's get some of my guys here. So, like, guys that we've painted on this show. So there really isn't anything else that I would do on this model. Like, I have, like, kind of a what I'll call a display finish quality level where everything is taken care of to the level that I want it, and then it's done. I think that maybe a lot of newer painters have problems like figuring out when done is, but really it's either when, well, I could do more on this, but I'm just not feeling it, and everything looks good. This is our Crimson Herald that we did. You know, everything is highlighted, everything. If I have basic highlighting and shading on everything and it looks good, like everything is at the same level, then it's done. And then we've got, I'm just going to give you the parade of models that we've done over the last several months. We've got Lizette. She had a lot of freehand on her that we did. But really for me, it is have I at least highlighted and shaded everything? And does the model across the model, does it look finished to kind of the same level? And then Noli. So yeah. But I find that there is definitely like a finish level that I aim for with these display models. And my competition models are far different. Competition level, there I do have, like, at times I question whether I can do a little bit more. But that's because on my competition model, I'm pushing myself. I'm not pushing myself generally on any of these models. I'm not like trying to be perfection. It would take way too long to paint them. And I'm honestly, I'm giving them to Reaper for pretty much free after the streams. For most cases, sometimes I sell one. But so I'm very conscious that I don't want each of these models to take 40 hours. So we are fairly efficient, and we paint to a very good level, but not my top level. Unless there's a model I really love. Like, I'd say Lizette we put a lot of time into because the freehand took a while. But yeah, with me, finding one more thing to do stopped happening when I started painting for my first competitions, because I got in the habit of just kind of like, okay, did I shade and highlight everything? You know, and did I do it to the same level? And then I stop and ask myself, does it need a little more, right? Because the old rule we used to have at my paint club was highlight it until you think it looks good, and then put another 2 layers of highlight on it. But then again, you also have to think, well, but belts and pouches don't really require the same level of attention as like a blended cloak with freehand. So But as your eye improves, as your eye for the work improves, I think you start to see where, oh, her skin is done, to a really high level, but I didn't spend nearly as much time on the cloak and it doesn't look as good. So then you maybe spend a little more time on the cloak, things like that. And then again, if you have to also ask yourself, hey, if you're not doing this for a living like I am, then it doesn't matter what point you call it done at. It's if you're not doing this for a living, it is done when you have learned what you came to learn from it. If you don't feel you can learn anything else from the model, just put it aside, declare it done, and move on to the next. I kind of feel like one of the worst things you can do is keep trying to put more paint on a model that's more or less done. If you're just nitpicking it and you're not really learning from it. You'll always learn more putting aside that model and moving on to a different model. You will learn a lot more as a painter. So don't get stuck on a piece just because you're endlessly reworking it because you feel like you don't know if it's done. If there's a question mark, have you highlighted and shaded every surface? It's done. Move on. Obviously that changes if, like me, you are doing Patreon, commissions, streaming, stuff like that. And, competition work as well. And even with competition work, it's not really, is the model done? It's more, have I done enough to be competitive? It's a different question at that point. So I've gotten my pink finally toned down to the point where, and I'm getting some nice blends. See how nice and smooth and soft that is? So I've gotten my pink kind of, finally, after throwing a ton of water at it, I've gotten it tuned in a little bit better. But notice how much better this is looking with that blue now. And this is still looking a little bit jarring, and this is starting to look better and better. And that's because we're lightening it, we're pushing it away from the blue on the color wheel, and we also made it a little bit more vibrant by adding that red, which is a very bright red. Fire red is really saturated. So we took all three things that were wrong, and we corrected them, even if it was just a little bit. We also took the opportunity to darken the blue by putting in that shadow. So we've made her look better by addressing the things that we figured out were kind of not working. But yeah, most of these models will end up, I give them to Ron at Reaper. A couple of them I've held back. One of them is going to be a present for the sculptor who sculpted it, for example. So I can do that too. But probably the standard that I paint models on the stream here is kind of my set standard. It's my gallery standard. It's my commission standard. I no longer do commissions to competition level. I'm just not interested in doing it. The only person who I really want to be accountable to for a competition level model is me. Because I enjoy painting. I very much enjoy painting competition level, and I don't want anything to make me not enjoy that, and commissions are a primary cause of loss of enjoyment for me, so. Which is not to say that I won't put things up for sale that are a very high level. Probably you guys remember the little halfling assassin that I did from Black Crow? She'll be entered in the competition at KublaCon at the end of this month, and I'm considering selling her on my Patreon. She will not be for a bargain price though, since I did her to a high level. She will be put up for a higher price. Normally I try to keep my prices lower when I offer models for sale on my Patreon, because I like people to be able to get them, because I think you can learn a lot by collecting paint jobs from painters you like and having them in your hand to look at. Reaper painting competition is a lot like World Expo, or the other competitions that it's similar to are things like MMSI Chicago, Atlanta. It uses what's called the open system. So it's not like Golden Demon where there's a first, second, third, and that's it. It's actually a medal system, so it's gold, silver, and bronze. You can enter as many models as you like. There are a few different categories, and you can enter as many in each category as you like. The judges will choose the model that they feel they can score the best out of your entries, and you will get the award you deserve. So it's not like, only X number of people get golds. If your work warrants a gold, then you get a gold medal. So nobody gets an award at the expense of anyone else is the aim of that. And the other aim of the open system is to give feedback so that you can improve. So there we go. There's a compilation of helpful threads. Quindy just did it. But yeah, in short, it's a really welcoming affair, and like it's good at giving you an idea where how your painting stacks up, what level you're at. The other great thing about ReaperCon is that we let you know who the judges are, and you can go get your judging sheets, learn who judged your models, and then seek them out either that evening or the next day. The award ceremony is always on Saturday. So you can find us on Saturday night or Sunday and ask us, what can I work on for next year? What could I have done better on this model to get a silver or a gold or whatever, the next level up. Stuff like that. So that's very unique. Although more and more competitions are, I think, like embracing that idea. I know that at KublaCon this year, because I'm one of the judges, I'm going to try to make myself available for feedback. All right. No. We do not need gifts. We give freely of our time and oomph. Which is amazing considering how many of us are introverts. But we really do love to help you guys. So just putting a few highlights in as I didn't do them earlier. I was experimenting with this highlighting scheme. And I didn't necessarily bring up all of these areas to the point I wanted them. Um, 8408, I use a 1. Vithiel, if you are used to the other one, if you're used to the 8404, then you're used to a really more of a thick brush. These are very tapered. So if your paint style is like mine, where you're doing a lot of like this kind of brush stroke, then you may like the 8408s because they are so much thinner. I mean, you can really see the difference here, right? This is given the one on the right is very thick, is a much bigger size. It's a 3 instead of a 1. But you can still see how fast the taper comes down, right? Like it's thick right up until the very end of the tip. Whereas this one has a very long, thin section of the brush. So if you do a lot of brushing like that's more to the side or diagonally brush strokes, or loaded brush, you're gonna like your 8404s better. But if you do, like me, a lot of linear strokes, a lot of like lines, and you're trying to do blending with thin lines, then the 8408 is probably going to be a good tool for you. So just be aware that it really does, your mileage with various brush shapes will very much depend on kind of the style you gravitate toward. And make that decision with like that in mind. I mean, I picked up this Escoda, which is also a very fat little brush, but that's primarily because I kind of wanted to give them another chance, and I was interested in maybe learning to use this style of brush a little bit more. So, but be aware that, yeah, different styles of brush, different shapes of brush are good for different styles and different techniques. I love really fine detail, and so I gravitate toward brushes with a very, and I also have a very light hand on my brush. I don't use a really heavy brush stroke. And so I love these long, thin brushes, but somebody with a heavier handed style, or that liked a different brush stroke, or that didn't have as light a touch as I do, might get more mileage out of the thicker brushes. Yes, this is true. That trying a bunch of different brush shapes can lead you to the brush that you love the ball of, above all others, you know, your holy grail brush. Absolutely. And the tip is still really good on those thicker brushes. So it's not like you're, you know, downgrading or anything. It's just a different shape in general. It'll carry more paint. Do be aware of that. Like for things like lining and doing small details, longer, thinner brush is going to be better for you. If you need to cover a lot of space or you're doing like big blends, then the thicker brush is going to hold more fluid for you. So what I find is that if I'm using a thicker brush and I'm, you know, loading up very thin paint, that I have to switch to a thinner brush to get better control. Otherwise, it's just too much unloading. I'm just going to come in and add some more highlights. But yeah, at the beginning, trying a bunch of stuff, and you may not realize till later why you like a given brush. I think a lot of painters overlook that. Like they just know, hey, this brush is the best brush ever for me. And they maybe don't do like a lot of analysis to figure out why. I love to figure out the why, so I'm always looking at that, and that's what I've found is that I tend to gravitate toward the thinner brushes because I use my paint very thin. And if I'm using thicker paint, then I like the bigger brushes. But the minute I switch to a very thin paint is the minute I revert and want my thinner brush because it's just faster to unload and easier to control the paint with the way that I paint. I realized this in Sergio's class where he made us paint with thicker paint and a bigger brush than I was used to. And it worked. So then I analyzed why it worked. It really is just paint consistency and ease of use. Yeah, I could see a brush that's naturally built to be a thinner, longer tip, having a bit more staying power with that tip. Because the hairs are all constructed, that brush is constructed that way, right? So, but yeah, that'll be an interesting experiment. Let us know how it goes. Now we got to get on the other side of here. I also want to get that line down the back of the neck. Also probably depends on how you use them, like your style. Like some people say that they tend to lose the tips off their brushes, and other people like Rhonda and I never have that problem. So we're like our brushes keep their tips, but they thin down more and more over time. So a little bit, because this is an angled surface back here. I'm going to keep this side in shadow though, because it is in shadow. Never heard of them. Generally, if you've been using synthetics, any sable that's decently put together will be an improvement. But yeah, I haven't heard of AIT. If they're very cheap, then they're sables, but they're not Kolinsky. But even with that, you can get lucky. There are times you just get lucky with a cheap red sable that actually got put together well, and if you take good care of it, you can make it, and get a lot out of it even at a lower price point. But in general, if you are paying less for a sable, you are paying for a lower grade sable without as good construction. So only accidentally will you get a really good brush out of that. That said, if you learn to choose your brushes well, sometimes you can tell in the packet that they're just not looking good. Yeah, bye Shadow Raven, enjoy your lunch. Oh yeah. Sure, Eons of Battle. Hey, did you do the how to fix GW? Was that the one that you did? Because if so, it was a fantastic video. My patrons hunted it out and posted it on my Patreon Discord. Yeah, you're super funny. Keep doing video, man, it was awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Thanks for interviewing me. I'm one of the old ladies in mini painting now. You gotta represent our demographic. I've been painting forever. I won my Golden Demons in 2002, thank you. Which I didn't mention on the video because I was like, well, you didn't ask. But yes, it was really fun and enjoyable. So thank you for interviewing me. Let's see here. And I did enjoy the whole video. I even made my fiance watch it. White sable brushes. Huh. I haven't heard of white sable. That is a total non. I don't even know what those are, Raven Day. Now I'm gonna have to look it up after the stream. Oh, my paint has gotten too thick. This is the problem. It will evaporate eventually. Like on a wet palette, it would get thinner. And on my dry palette, it gets thicker. And really, the thing is just to figure out which palette works for you best. But we got a nice fade now there. That's a nice blend. Oh, it's a long-term joke. Like me and Jennifer Haley and Sue Wachowski and, a bunch of us who... compared to people like Marika Reimer and Jessica Rich, who came in kind of the generation after us, so we always called ourselves the old ladies in mini painting. But yeah, I'm not sure about that. Not sure about the white sable. That's really interesting. I have never heard of that. Maybe it's a new type of sable. In which case, I wonder if it's if they grade it like the red. Now I'm intrigued. I'm gonna go and Google this after stream. I will find out. About the white sable, the mythical white sable. It sounds like that, doesn't it? The legendary white sable. Boing, there we are. So now we're getting a little bit of brush strokes. You can see those. So what we do is we take our previous color, you turn it around, and you come back in from the opposite side, and you can blend that little edge in a little bit if you really want a smooth blend. The other way to get smooth blends is by glazing. And essentially, I'm just kind of doing a spot glaze here. That's a little better. Harvest weasels. Yeah, I know, right? I do love my sable brushes. I cannot deny that when I'm doing tiny freehand, it's the thing to go to. So I don't have a GW model in here, Eons, but here are some of the models we worked on previously. We work on, since it's Reaper stream, I'm working on Reaper models, but we did Lizette, and that's all freehand, These are 28s, obviously. So, we do fun stuff. I do the little freehand on the Necromancer guy's book and all that. So I do love my sables because it lets me do that stuff. Alrighty, I think we're pretty much at time on the stream, but I didn't quite finish my highlighting over here. But I did it a bit. So now you guys can see, when we started this stream, our purple, oops, I touched that up. Our purple was really fighting with our blue here. And now it's looking a lot better. Now it's looking, I'd say, as good as it is on the front of this piece. So let's back out. Yep. Bye, crows. Bye. Oh, you have some white. Yeah, white synthetics. But I haven't heard of white sables. So I'm going to go and look that up. But yeah, thanks for the heads up. So thanks for coming by, Eons. Our stream goes from 11:30 a.m. USA Central Time till 1, so I am due to be done. But it was good to see you guys. It was nice to be able to tell you that I really enjoyed the video. Okay, everybody, what we did today, we analyzed some color theory. We analyzed why our blue was working so well with our purple color on the front, but it wasn't on the back. We added highlights to the purple to get it a little bit more contrast from the blue, and that helped. We also added some additional shadows to the blue, and that helped as well. And so all of these things are kind of after you troubleshoot what your color problem is, and then you can use the exact opposite thing to help push those colors apart, introduce contrast, and make your colors look better together. Alrighty. Thank you, everybody. The Robert Simmons white sables are actually synthetics. Thanks, Serenity. That's kind of what I was wondering. Is it somebody branding, right? But I'm open-minded, and you can always find a new species of weasel. So... no crow's nest tonight. All right. Excellent. So we will be back tomorrow, guys. Our model tomorrow is we're back to our Appaloosa Centaur. Woohoo! Which is awesome. We were doing socks on him. Remember, we were doing highlighting on the black there on the mane and on the tail, or on the feet and the tail. And then I'm going to do a white sock on this foot and a white sock on this foot. And I might do white streaks in his mane. I think that might be fun. So, I'm glad, Rainbow. Welcome. Fantasy Sable. But anyway, so yeah, we'll work on Mr. Centaur tomorrow. I really like this model. Thanks everybody for showing up, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. And remember, Monday the 23rd is our 500th episode, and we will be giving away free gift codes for our online store, for the Reaper online store. So come, make sure, tell all your friends that the 23rd is special, and if they want a chance to win some free, which we almost never do on this show, they should come by. All right. Have a great one, everybody. I will see you tomorrow morning.